Hello. So I'm going to continue the review of statistics, and today I am going to start from inferential statistics. So I have updated the lecture notes a lot. So please, but basically the content is the same, but you may prefer the updated one. It's much compact, so you may prefer this. So in inferential statistics, we are going to use some keywords that you may be familiar with, like estimator. By the way, there are two common inference methods like estimation and hypothesis testing. We are going to study them in more detail in a later chapter. So here, let me just remind you of what you have learned in your previous courses. So in estimation, when you study estimation, you may have heard about estimator, what is the standard error of the estimator, what is the confidence interval, and whether the estimator is unbiased or not, efficient or not, or consistent or not, right? In hypothesis testing, there are some jargons like test statistic, p-value, critical value, type 1 error, type 2 error, power, most powerful test, and consistency. So those kind of theories can be unified into one framework. So here I'm going to give you a very abstract and very general framework to understand those kind of things in one framework. The most important concept is the difference to understanding the relationship between the population and the sample and their differences. First, remember that very basically we learned that the randomness is generated from a random experiment, right? Right, obvious. And then distribution, you can imagine a distribution. If you repeat the experiment, then you will get many different numbers. Then in the end, if you have a lot of numbers, you are going to get a smooth distribution in the end. So if you have a small number, you are going to get something like a histogram or scatter plot. But when the number of the experiments become larger and larger, then in the end it will be a smooth distribution graph. So it's not new. So if an experiment is repeated for an infinite number of times, we know the true distribution, right? It's obvious. If you can repeat something forever, an infinite number of times, there will be no error. It will be a perfect information, which will be the true distribution. And in statistics, we call that concept as the population. But usually, of course, infinite number of observations is not available. So you have finite repetitions only. Finite repetitions of an experiment are available to researchers, and we call that sample. We call that a sample. So researchers only have a sample, but would like to understand the population. That's the difference. That's the basic relationship between them. So here is an example. Suppose that think about the coin toss, which is the simplest possible example in statistics. Coin toss, I would like to estimate the probability of heads, right? We know that the true probability is 50%, but it is not from an experiment. The 50% is coming from physics or mathematics, not from a repetition of observations. But suppose that, you can imagine that if you can flip a coin for an infinite number of times, you are going to get 50%. We know that, right? In this case, the true distribution is known. But on the other hand, that's not possible. But on the other hand, if you could toss 100 coins or toss a coin 100 times, then your observation may not be 50%. For example, 51 is also very likely. 51 heads out of 100 coins is very likely. That's only one coin error. That's likely 1% error, and the probability you got is 51%. This is sample probability, and this is population probability. they are conceptually different, right? Then what is their relationship? And as you can imagine, there are random probability in finite observations, but as you increase the number of repetitions, so you first throw 100 coins, and then 1,000, and then say million, billion, trillion. As you increase the number of repetitions, in the end, the sample probability will converge to the true probability. That is the law of large number, which is going to come later again, but conceptually it's intuitive without naming the law of large numbers, and it's quite easy to understand if you compare the population and sample using the number of repetitions. That's how I try to help you, how I explain this idea. So population probability and sample probability are easy to understand if you think about this example. And then why they are important? Because these two are also two fundamental pillars of statistical inference. So inference is basically like not in statistics, but in general, when you say you infer about something, that means you don't know about something, but you are guessing that unknown thing, right? So you need two things. First, you have to have the target. The target is what you want to know, but you don't know. So you would like to estimate that. That's the parameter in statistics. On the other hand, you have to have something. You have to have some kind of clues, something to rely on when you guess something, guess the parameter. So that's the sample. So you observe the data, which is just a finite observation, but finite number of observations. But from the finite number of observations, you'd like to predict what would happen if you could do an infinite number of observations, right? That's the parameter. That's the basic setup in inference. So it's important to distinguish what you don't know, what you want to know, and what you are using to guess the unknown. So that's the very basic thing to understand in statistical inference. And what makes it more complicated is that the sample probability, so think about coin toss, 51% is random. Its sample probability is random because, so think about this, when I throw 100 coins, I got 51 heads. It's likely, but the problem is, so I got 51% from the first 100 experiments. But now suppose that you throw 100 coins again. So then from there, would you get 51%? Of course not. When you redo the 100 coin toss again, you may get 50% or 49% or like 52%. Your result will be different, maybe different. If you're lucky, you may get 51 again, but just that is also a random realization. So basically, when you toss 100 coins again and again, each time you may have different results, and if you repeat that many times, you are going to get another distribution. That's very confusing, a very important concept, because that is a kind of second order randomness. It is the randomness not in just one coin, but in the probability of out of 100 coins. So however, that randomness, if you repeat that the 100 coin toss, it is random, but there is a pattern. There is a pattern. For example, even if you throw 100 coins again and again, it's really hard to get all of the coins have heads or none of them has coins that heads. So 100% or 0% is extremely unlikely out of your 100 coin toss. But also having like 50% or 51 or 49%, it's very likely because that's closer to the truth. So simply speaking, when you throw 100 coins, the result will be likely to be close to the true parameter, and it's unlikely to happen some extreme outliers. That's the basis of your estimator. Because of that, because you know that, you can use your estimator, your sample probability, to guess the parameter. Because you know that your sample probability will be close to, is likely to be close to the true probability. That's how we justify the estimation method, the statistical inference, right? So then it is so interesting to think about this. If you observe the population, if you observe infinite observations, or if you know everything about the population, you don't need any statistics. Statistics is for inference, but in that case, you don't need any inference. It's just a matter of computation, right? So for example, presidential election is a perfect example. So there are some jobs for statisticians. Statisticians has to predict the result of a presidential election. They work really hard. They do many polls. They compare results a lot, and they try to sample the voters more carefully. However, there is no more room for statistics once the counting is complete. So if all votes are open, then it's just counting how many votes are for candidate A, how many votes are for candidate B. That is not a statistics. Computation, it's just computing. Uh, so like this, once you know the population, everything about the population, we don't need statistics. So that means we are learning statistics. So in this course, of course, I will assume that the population is unknown. If it is known, you don't need to learn this, right? So another example, more realistic example. What is the average annual earnings of an adult in the United States? So if you could observe all adults in the United States, you can answer it. You don't need statistics. You just need to calculate the average out of the large number of observations. So in this case, you don't need statistics. On the other hand, you need statistics because you cannot observe all of them. That is the survey. So you only survey a certain number of adults. Still, the number is quite large, like several thousand, or sometimes like more than 10,000, several tens of thousands. But still, that's not the whole part of the population. So you need to use some statistical argument. So in this case, the population and the sample are easy to tell what they are. So according to the Wikipedia, statistical population is defined in this way. Population is a hypothetical and potentially infinite group of objects of interest. So it's everything, the full group of objects of your interest. You are interested in them, like adults in the United States, or all the votes for president. So that's unknown. We have to assume that they are unknown. Otherwise, you don't need statistics. On the other hand, you have a sample, which is a set of observations randomly selected from the population. You may think it as a data. So you only observe the sample. You never observe population. Population is just your target in your brain, in your mind. So you can contrast population and sample in this way. And parameter and statistic are similar. Parameter is a numerical measures calculated from the population, like probability or expectation. And statistic is a numerical measure calculated from the sample, like probability or expectation. So you can think about population probability or sample probability, or population expectation or sample expectation. Population mean, sample mean. So almost everything goes parallel between population and sample. And then statistical inference is to guess parameters of interest using appropriate statistics. Of course, you have to show why your statistic is appropriate. That's what the statisticians do. And of course, parameters are unknown, and we assume that it is non-random. because once you observe infinite everything, there is no randomness. There is only one answer. The true answer is fixed. If the true answer is random, then it's a different problem. We assume that the true answer is fixed. By the way, when I say true answer is non-random, Bayesian statisticians may not agree with that, but as I said before, I'm not going to consider Bayesian approach here. Not because they are not important, but because it goes too deep. Like I need to spend a lot of time to explain Bayesian, so please follow the frequentist approach for now. And statistics, or like in contrast to the parameters, statistics are those the measures that are computable from the data, but usually they are random, so they may have random errors. So when you understand the distinction between them, okay, I am going to resume this part from here in the next video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.